You've spent countless hours applying for every job you can possibly find. You might have applied for over 100 jobs, and yet no one's getting back to you. Recruiters don't even seem to be acknowledging your application, let alone calling you in for interview. Why? Well, in this video, I'm going to answer that question. So if this is your first time visiting our channel, we do videos designed to help out employees. And as opposed to many of the channels out there that are a bit dull, a bit scripted and a bit unengaging, we try to be very honest and very real to the actual picture to give you the genuine scope of what's actually going on and answer real questions that you need to know. So if this is the kind of stuff that interests you and stuff that you want to know, do subscribe to our channel, and at the end of the video, if you like this one, do click the like button. We release videos every Tuesday at 5 PM. With that, let's get on with this video. I've got some lights on and this is being filmed on a very hot day, and despite trying to put the air conditioning on, we can't do it during the video, so it's hot. So you've applied for what feels like literally hundreds of jobs, and no matter what you do, nobody seems to be acknowledging you exist. Not only are you not even getting interviews, but recruiters just aren't even coming back to your applications. You've tried tons and tons of times and it's very, very frustrating. So why is this stuff happening? Firstly, 90% of all of the jobs on job boards are through recruiters rather than direct employers. I could go into detail of why this is the case, but it will make for a very boring video, so nevertheless, those are the numbers. One common misconception about recruiters is that our job is to find people jobs. But that's not actually the case. The job of a recruiter is to work with clients and find them people to fill their vacancies. And like any business, your job is to look after the customer, which in this instance is the client, not the candidate. Hence where the misconception comes into play. But how does this affect you not hearing back from recruiters despite making countless applications? Well, the volume of applications that recruiters receive from our advertising is absolutely vast. And that's part of the reason why companies choose to use recruitment agencies. And I've heard it before where people go, oh, these agencies, they put out fake adverts just to attract people. It's all a bit of a waste of time. They're all taking the mick. That does happen with some cowboy agencies, but they're a real minority. We've got to bear in mind is that the way agencies work is that we will pay for a set amount of advertising with job boards per month. And any agencies that's any good, they'll already be at the limit of the amount of advertising that they can possibly do with the amount of jobs that they normally have. You can't really afford to then start putting out fake adverts because there's no benefit. You've got enough vacancies as it is. You're already overworked as it is. Last thing you want to be doing is putting out fake adverts and using up the credits that you just don't have left over anyway. So that's a bit of a myth. Now, recruiters will typically be working on 15 to 30 vacancies at any one point. That means if they had 50 applications for 30 vacancies, that recruiter could have 450 CVs coming their way. And also consider that the initial telephone interview that we make with a candidate, even if we're trying to get the most basic information to assess them, it will take at least 5 minutes for each one of those calls. So ignoring the boring maths of all of this, if we were to telephone interview for 5 minutes, all of the 50 applicants that applied for every 30 jobs over the course of a month, that equates to a total of 37.5 hours worth of just initial telephone interviews. Most recruitment agents will work on what is called either a 360 recruitment setup or an account management setup. A 360 recruiter is a recruiter that will do all of their own business development, all of their own sales, all of their own admin, and all of their own account management. Now, an account manager in recruitment will tend to look after either one client with a lot of vacancies or a small number of clients with a similar amount of vacancies. Now, whether it's a 360 recruiter or an account management recruiter, it isn't unusual for recruiters to do 12-hour days, 5 days a week. We're already flat out as it is, and that's without calling every applicant that applies. Many recruiters, therefore, in a typical week will easily do 50 to 55 hours, and that's without going over their normal working hours. I've done weeks at certain points of the year where I haven't even taken a lunch break. I've turned up early in the office, I've left late, I've come in on a weekend. We're that busy at points. The bottom line of why you're not hearing back from recruiters is that it's just simply not practical to come back to every person. And you might think, well, why don't they even just drop me an email? If you're sending 450 rejection emails, there is a big problem when you tend to do that. And it tends to be that quite understandably, people come back and go, well, why is that? Could you give me more details? And those 450 emails turn into 900 emails. If you're already doing 50, 55 hours a week, working through your lunch break, turning up early in the morning, leaving late at night, working the odd weekend, it's just not practical to do it. You're too overrun, you just don't have the time. And don't get me wrong, I'd love to come back to every applicant. Bear in mind, we do a YouTube channel that I make no money from, and I film them in my own time to do this. I don't make any money, I don't get anything out of it, I do it to help people out. So it's kind of very frustrating when all you get back from people and the general understanding of recruiters is that we just don't care. Most of us really do care, we really do want to do a good job, it's just people don't see the other side of the coin. And I know you might think, well, come on, do a little bit of time, make a little bit of time to at least come back to people, but you've got to bear in mind that who pays us the money? It's the client that pays us the money, it isn't candidates. It'd be a bit like saying, would you be happy working twice as many hours if you knew you weren't going to get paid for it? Well, it's the same for us. But what if your CV is good enough and you think, well, my CV should be considered, why aren't they coming back to me? Simple. Call the agency and they'll explain why. And there'll probably be a very simple explanation for it too. But if you're thinking, well, I don't fancy calling up 50 agencies just to understand why I wasn't brought forward for a job, there's probably a very simple reason for it, and it comes down to one of two things. Firstly, either your CV simply doesn't match up to some of the other people that are brought forward for the job and they're better, even if you meet the minimum requirements, or that all of the information that you need to identify that you're actually good enough to do the job might not be clear enough on your CV. We've actually got a separate video on how to get a job which goes through some of this stuff and points out some things that might not be so obvious, certainly if you haven't looked for a job in a little while. I'm going to put the link up above just to view that one for you, so go check that video out. The other thing I'd point out is that hiring managers tend to only want to see 3 to 5 people for interview. Hiring managers don't like to be bombarded by people. If I'm being honest with you, hiring managers, if they're hiring people, that means that they don't have enough staff to do the jobs that they need done. That means they're probably having to fill in for those jobs, and guess what? They're probably overworked as it is. They don't have time to sift through 20, 30, 40 CVs, so they use a recruiter to do that for them and narrow it down to, let's say, typically the best 3 to 5 CVs. So in simple terms, if your CV isn't one of the 3 to 5 best out of the 50 applicants that typically come through for the average job, then we're not going to call you for that reason. I do hear a particular gripe quite commonly, which is, oh well, recruiters haven't done the job before, how can they assess us correctly if they haven't done it? What do they know? And I get the point, I understand it, and I'm not going to try and pretend that I've done that job before. I recruit engineers, I'm not an engineer. But what you've got to bear in mind is that if we didn't know what we were doing and we didn't know how to assess whether someone's suitable for the job or not, why would hiring managers hire people off us and then come back for more every time they need people? If we didn't know what we were doing and we didn't get results and we didn't know enough about to find the right people, they wouldn't come back to us, so we must be doing something right. So that pretty much sums up the video. Now, I get the feeling I might get a few angry comments on this one, but I put myself in the shoes of a candidate and I'm thinking, well, I'd want to know why, if I've applied for 100 jobs, why recruiters aren't coming back to me. And our channel's about being honest, it's about being real, it's about being genuine. We're not going to try and sugarcoat things, so that's the answer, and hopefully that one explains to you, and hopefully at least it gives you clarity on why, if you've applied for so many jobs, that recruiters don't come back to you. If you like this video, don't forget to click like, subscribe to our channel, and click the bell icon so you won't miss any one of our forthcoming videos.